And now for our representative in Parliament, George Galloway.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much indeed. There's really not a great deal to add to the excellent speeches my friends have made beyond, in the context of the student wave of protest and occupation, to add my congratulations to those offered by Chris on behalf of Stop the War. It was a remarkable phenomenon and was remarkably successful. I thought I heard you say that, or Chris or Rob say that every single one of them was victorious, which is really something. And if everybody got their administrations to back down to the demands that were levelled, that's got to be counted as an enormous victory. And so congratulations to all that participated in those. The only one I myself made it to was at the London School of Economics, which was, I think, one of the first, and I was glad to be there, and I apologise to those who asked me that I was not able to visit any of the others. And the reason was, as I'm about to describe, the other part of this front that my friends didn't mention, and that's the convoy that's going to Gaza next Saturday. And this is not just important because of what's going out of the country, but the other uprising that's taking place, a kind of intifada, especially in the north of the country, in the Midlands, and especially amongst the Muslim youth, but more general also than that, both geographically and demographically. I have been speaking around the country virtually every day, sometimes twice, 3 times a day, to audiences which rival the kind of audiences that we were talking to, Lindsay and Chris and I and others, in the run-up to the February 15th demonstration 2003. It's a truly remarkable thing that I never thought to see replicated again. We were the leading figures in the Stop the War coalition. We were addressing meetings larger than we'd ever seen before, more diverse than we'd ever seen before, and then there was a dip inevitably after the war. Not a dip back to what it had been before the war, but nonetheless a dip. Suddenly there's a rise again in those audiences and in the diversity of those audiences. And in the last couple of weeks I've spoken at meetings which are quite mind-boggling. Thousands of people indoors. In Bradford last Monday night, on the worst night of the worst winter for 13 years, there was 1,800 people crammed into a hall, raising £130,000 in their fundraising effort for Gaza. And this is replicated everywhere I've been, in Bolton, in Manchester, in Rochdale, in Birmingham. Gigantic meetings, drawing in, and this is something we've all noticed on the demonstrations, people who were too young to have been on the previous demonstration. I've got to let you in on a secret, because you're very young people. For us, 2003 is actually only yesterday. But for you, it's a much more significant past period of time. And now we've got people on our demonstrations that were clearly too young to have been on the demonstrations in 2003, and the militancy and the vibrancy with which they're present, the militancy of their politics, the detestation of war, exploitation and occupation, which drove us in previous generations, is clearly now driving a new generation onto the streets, into the movements, occupations like yours, demonstrations like the ones that we held, and as Chris described, the ones that we're going to have in April, and they're very important that everyone's on board. Let me tell you quickly, if I may, about the convoy. It leaves next Saturday at 1 o'clock, either from the embankment with the Palace of Westminster as the backdrop. Chris will understand we're having intensive negotiations with the Metropolitan Police about where we're going to park, either outside the Palace of Westminster, or perhaps even better, outside Buckingham Palace, which might even be a better launch pad, a better picture. This convoy is now more than 1 mile long. It's more than 100 vehicles carrying more than £1 million worth of aid into Gaza. It will be the biggest convoy of British vehicles and people since since General Montgomery, Field Marshal Montgomery in the Second World War and the Battle of El Alamein. They won't know what hit them. By the time we reach Egypt, because we're going through France and Spain, Morocco, Algeria, Tunisia, Libya, and going into Egypt at Alexandria, crossing to Rafah, by which time this column, goodness knows what length it will be by then, because it will be being joined by trucks and ambulances and fire engines and the rest all the way. So by the time we get there, people ask me, will President Mubarak in Egypt allow this convoy to cross? Well, we'll be big enough to drive through the checkpoint. I make only two specific requests, if I may, of the students. First of all, try to stay in touch with the website, vivapalestina.org, so that you can see which of these two, the Mall or the embankment, that it's leaving from, and come down to wave us goodbye and give us support. I expect a big media turnout on the day, and it would be nice if they saw a lot of people wishing us luck as they waved us goodbye. We'll be on the road for 16 days, sleeping in our vehicles, traveling as fast as we can to get that huge convoy there. The second request is this, and it's very specific, and you might not be able to help, but people, students, I would say from the university, except the university has been destroyed, deliberately, willfully destroyed in Gaza, but students contacted me from Gaza who are art students, and they report that there is absolutely nothing in the way of art materials in Gaza right now, and no means of getting any. So if you're able to help us with crayons and brushes and paints and I don't know what other things artists need, canvases, sketch pads, whatever you think, you'll know better than me, whatever you think art students in particular would be able to make use of. If you're able to collect that, then we'll find, Kevin, a space on one of the trucks for that. So if you either are a student at an art school or have good connections with students there, if you can beg, borrow, or temporarily liberate any materials, that would be gratefully received, and I'll tell the students there in Gaza that it came as a result of this great meeting here today. Thank you very much indeed.